What's up, everybody? And today we're reacting to part 2 of exploring the SCP Foundation, SCP-5000. Why? And this is by the Exploring series. The first part was awesome. I really like this format of telling the story with awesome images over the top of it. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. I do have my theories, though. I've already gone into that in the last video, but I think the SCP, what was it, 5-2 something or whatever it was, 5-4 something, what was it? I can't remember which one it was. 579, SCP-579. I think that was the cause of all this. That's my theory, guys. Anyway, let's shut up, let's react to it, and let's go from there.
Pietro is carrying an SCP in that briefcase, in fact. SCP-055.
Interesting.
I've mentioned this one before, primarily in my anti-memetics video, as 055 is pretty much the quintessential anti-memetic SCP. Anyone can view it and see exactly what it is, but the knowledge pretty much instantly leaks out of their heads.
Huh.
The only thing the Foundation really knows for sure is that the object in question isn't round. In other words, Pietro is carrying an unknown object, and wants to take it to another unknown object, 579.
579, yep.
This exact scenario has occurred before, in SCP-2998, another subject I've covered in a video. In that ordeal, when a strange alien race took control of humanity, a Foundation agent takes 055 into 579's containment chamber, fitting a round peg into a square hole, as it were, which resets the timeline. Pietro seems to be heading to do this exact same maneuver, but...
There we go. Exactly what my theory was, that Pedro's going back to 579 and somehow is going back in time somehow and resetting all that's been done. Or at least preventing it from happen. I theorized this at the start, guys. I think I might be right.
Isn't sure why. As he continues walking across the country, he remarks on how far the containment unit for 579 is from Site 19. And the only way he knows where it is at all is because of some documentation he has, which he isn't sure how he obtained. He's walked past thousands of corpses so far, including a child in a house he was scavenging from.
That's sad.
He thought at first the child had just been shot in the head, but when he went to bury him, he saw hundreds of pale worms wriggling underneath the boy's skin. They poured out of the body as soon as he touched them, and they all had the boy's face, laughing as they scurried into a drain.
That's terrifying. That's some Stephen King stuff right there. That's absolutely terrifying.
Pietro decides not to bury anyone else, and struggles with continuing on his journey. He discovers that if he starts to get overwhelmed by his situation, all he has to do is open up the briefcase, and he suddenly finds himself miles ahead, feeling good about himself. 055 seems to be wiping out more than just knowledge about itself, but also entire blocks of time.
Interesting. That's a good way to kind of get through a long walk, really, isn't it? I mean, you're still doing the walk at the end of the day, but if you don't have to remember doing, like, the past 4 miles, the next 4 miles are not going to be so difficult, are they?
Pietro finds a laptop in the corpse of a Foundation agent, half buried in the woods. He finds more info on some anomalies that the Foundation are using against humanity. SCP-5000 is a facility under Yellowstone Park that can be used to recreate humanity in case of a disaster.
What? They really come up with everything. Underground London, restart humanity underneath the park. Like, there's so many random weird things. The Leviathan, like this suit. It's so interesting. Somewhere out there in this world, in this chaotic world, alternate world, we should say, Garfield's running around feeding people pizza. Think about that.
The Foundation decides to trigger the eruption of Yellowstone, completely destroying SCP-5000 and blanketing most of the country in ash. This is interesting to note, as it means that the Foundation isn't just intent on wiping out the current crop of humanity and rebuilding it, but instead is intent on obliterating humanity completely.
Yeah. Why though?
SCP-2200 is sort of a tricky SCP to summarize in a sentence or two, but basically it's a sword that causes victims killed with it to be recreated on an island in metal form.
What?
These metal copies retain their former memories and personalities, but don't need to eat, drink, or sleep. But they can still die in this form as well.
Interesting.
The Foundation managed to mass produce these swords, which teleport to individuals who are likely to use them. And the island where the metal copies appear is now overflowing, with living copies trapped under dead ones.
I bet.
Probably not the most effective strategy the Foundation has come up with, but there you go.
That's weird.
SCP-2241 is a 7-year-old boy with fledgling reality bender abilities
So this guy's like mini Doctor Strange.
that the Foundation was previously studying, with the O5 Council interested in raising him as a useful tool. Seems
Just a
they
mini
got their
Doctor
wish,
Strange.
as 2241 is now being used to wipe out refugee camps. And they're sending him over to the bunker at Ganzir, since they're still having trouble breaking in.
Yeah, this kid's gonna be messed up in the head if they keep forcing him to do stuff like that. Jeesh.
SCP-2466 is an app on a smartphone that plays out like a battle from the Pokemon series of games, with the player fighting against a Mega Charizard X. The
Interesting.
app compels residents of a specific town in California to carry out certain actions based on the Charizard's moves, which range from socially disruptive to violent or suicidal. This app was used by the Foundation for some time until it permanently crashed, presumably because there were no residents left in that town.
That's weird.
Again, not incredibly effective overall.
There's some weird SCPs.
SCP-2639 are 3 individuals who somehow got trapped in a server running the video game Quake, and are able to manifest occasionally in the real world for a short time, carrying out a death match that is capable of destroying structures and killing non-participants.
What?
Since the individuals can't die, possess heavy firepower, and are exceptionally bored, the Foundation had previously recruited them as an MTF, sent into extreme situations requiring the elimination of hostile non-human targets. The group of 3 were average teenagers, and really didn't want to harm anyone. In this situation, the Foundation sent them into survivor communities and opposing groups to kill everyone present, telling them that they were monsters that have escaped from containment.
Damn.
The 3 soon figured this wasn't the case, and after a short time, have ceased all hostile activities for the Foundation's behalf.
There's some really bizarre SCPs. I mean, there is over what? 5,000 of them? Is there over 5,000? Of like the 6,000 SCPs. 6,000. Holy crap. That's a lot of SCPs. So, you know, obviously 6,000 of them? Jeez. I just looked one here. SCP-5706. Skyrim speed run prank gone wrong. Non-sexual, not clickbait. That's literally the name of the SCP. What? What else is there? There's some really strange ones. The Fifth Gate. Snowman Heaven. The President, Mr. President 2. Ghost Yard. Frankenstein Burger King. There's some weird SCPs out there. There really is.
Pietro makes a journal entry about sitting near a campfire in his suit with a group of GOC soldiers who don't know that he's there. He appreciates the company regardless. The GOC soldiers don't really seem to have anywhere to go at this point and are simply wandering. Pietro contemplated momentarily about asking them for help to get to 579, but thought better of it, commenting that he's less of a tourist now and more of a ghost. He does tap into a GOC database while hanging out near the soldiers, though, and retrieves an interview log from inside Ganzir. The interviewer is a commander with the GOC, Morrison, and the interviewee is a captured MTF agent, Ross. Morrison had captured the MTF when they were trying to sneak into the bunker, and so far none of them had spoken at all except for Ross. Ross says it's because they've met before, during a joint operation between the Foundation and the GOC a few years ago. When they caught the MTF, they had been trying to sneak in with a group of refugees. Upon being noticed, the MTF opened fire into the crowds before being captured. When asked if he thinks that's crazy, Ross simply laughs, saying that the GOC are crazy as well if they think they can do anything to stop the Foundation.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong, is he? Like, the Foundation literally has so much resources, it's unbelievable, especially if you think about how many SCPs. If they've contained over 6,000 SCPs, like, they've got a lot of resources and a lot of creative ways to destroy humanity. Like, nearly 6,000 ways, apart from a few that are probably good, like the tickle monster and stuff like that. The majority of them are not good. So,
when threatened with enhanced interrogation, implying torture, Ross laughs again and says they can do whatever they want, since he's not afraid, after realizing that you're not supposed to feel pain. Morrison asks what he means, and Ross hesitates, telling him that he wouldn't want him to say. Morrison responds that he does, but Ross says he wasn't talking to Morrison. Upon further pressuring, Ross acquiesces, but what he says is inaudible in the recording. The doctor present in the room tells him that he'll have to speak up, as the microphone only has so much gain. What Ross says next is removed from the record, but both Morrison and the doctor can be heard loudly screaming, with the sounds of wet cracks and rushing wind heard.
And what was he then?
Ross says they've done this to themselves, and he had warned them. He really liked them, so he was trying to be nice. He remarks that they fight in the light, so you can die in the dark. This is a twist on a common Foundation motto: we die in the dark, so you can live in the light. The log ends with Ross calling them disgusting, and Pietro notes that right after this, some emergency resulted in the destruction of Ganzir. The latter part of this interview log is pretty important, as it is very similar to another interview log, the one with SCP-682, the hard-to-destroy reptile.
That's the crocodile with a wig. My boy, crocodile with a wig.
I haven't really talked about 682 much, but its primary feature of being practically impossible to destroy isn't really important here. What is important is its hatred of all life. In an interview log with 682, after it finished slaughtering some farmers, it's reluctant to speak. It mumbles something incomprehensible, so the doctor present remarks that the microphone only has so much gain, and it needs to be moved closer. While mauling the D-Class's body, who is tasked with moving the microphone, 682 is heard saying that they were disgusting. This connection isn't a coincidence, and we're definitely going to delve further into this later.
Yeah, that's
just take
weird.
Note of it for now.
It's got to be something to do with them, like, being lifeless and not having much of a soul or something like that. And I don't know. It's really weird. It's like the zombies, but they're able to function still.
Pietro makes another entry discussing how it's even harder to keep going now that the GOC are pretty much wiped out, as there seems to be even less hope left now. Pietro stopped eating and drinking, since the suit can sustain him anyways, and the Foundation has been spreading any number of weird viruses across the globe.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. Don't eat anything, especially seeing as, you know, SCP's out there letting all these things out, because if you eat one thing, it could be filled with anything. Anything. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Pretty much every condition imaginable, including walking around. He still occasionally opens the briefcase, but it isn't working as well as before, as he isn't jumping ahead as much, and doesn't feel as great afterwards. He ponders if he's growing numb to it, and wonders why he's even going to 579. We get info on a few more SCPs being used by the Foundation. SCP-3078 is a series of images that causes viewers to break out in uncontrollable laughter until dying by suffocation. The Church of the Broken God managed to get the internet back online, but the Foundation quickly spread thousands of copies of 3078 until the church brought the internet back down again.
Interesting.
3179 is a highly intelligent liquid metal alien capable of expanding its mass, altering its form, and creating smaller entities that can act autonomously. It was originally found by a branch of the Church of the Broken God, who believed it to be sent by their deity, but after discovering it to be invariably hostile, they managed to contain it and hand it over to the Foundation.
I like how he's going into these little stories about what's going on in the world, like what's going on with all these SCPs and what would actually happen if all of them were just released. Because there would be these weird little stories of people dying in different ways, like a Pokemon app or this liquid metal. You know, there's some really creative ways there, but it's still really freaky, isn't it?
After being released, it sparked a bit of a civil war in the church, as they're divided on whether or not it's actually their deity. Either way, it's now continually pumping out what are essentially Terminators.
Oh, geez.
SCP-3199 are large, hostile humanoid entities that continually lay extremely durable eggs containing more of their species.
That's disgusting.
They hunt live subjects around their hatchlings,
That is
liquefying
disgusting.
internal organs and bones and feeding the corpses to their young. This one didn't require much creativity, as the Foundation has just been airdropping the eggs around the world.
Gross.
Pietro keeps moving, a bit slower than before as he's losing motivation. He's been seeing increasingly strange things in the world, including what he calls blinkers, which he's pretty sure were created by the Foundation somehow. They're statues of MTF soldiers with empty sockets for eyes, and arms carved into blades.
What?
If you look at them, nothing happens, but if you look away, they rapidly move and kill you.
That's just like our little... What's it called? Which SCP is that one? The weird, like, stone one that breaks your neck and hugs you.
Somehow, the Foundation managed to turn MTF soldiers into copies of SCP-173. They don't kill Pietro when he stops looking at them, but they do stop when he is looking, so he figures eventually they'll start swinging just to try and hit him.
Yeah.
So he avoids them. The other thing he's seen is a lot weirder. A person stretched out on the horizon, like a bad Photoshop effect. The person's body was stretched from the ground up to the clouds, with gaps in space around its body like wings, and it just seemed to be floating. The Foundation seemed to be fighting this anomaly, and Pietro thinks about going to talk to them as they might not be affected by what's going on, but decides not to risk it.
So he's basically seen all these things and thinking, you know, either one, it's going to kill me, or one, it might help me. But either way, I'm going to ignore them all and get to 579 so that I can try and prevent this from happening. That's what's happening here, and it's really cool. Because there's probably so much temptation. This would make a really good movie. There's so much temptation to try and speak to something. This would make such a good movie. It really would.
He leaves another journal entry lamenting that he saw a kid die today and could have helped her, but didn't. We get our last couple of entries about anomalies the Foundation are using. SCP-4290 was a massive entity that had been sealed away 10,000 years ago, and then died 9,000 years ago due to malnutrition, making it effectively neutralized. The Foundation decided to take SCP-008, a virus that reanimates corpses as zombies, enhance it using SCP-914, the Clockworks, and revive the entity.
Oh, geez.
A group from the Serpent's Hand known as Kaiju-mancers tried to take it on, but the results are unknown, and Pietro says that they should have gone with the rest of the Serpent's Hand when they detached the Wanderer's library from this universe. SCP-4666.
We're getting into some really deep lore here for SCP, aren't we? Like, really deep lore that it's beyond me, but I'm enjoying it. I'm just enjoying the ride, guys.
The Yule Man is a rather horrific entity that stalks families during Christmas time.
Yep.
Eventually murdering most of the family and abducting a child who is forced to make toys out of other children. The Foundation,
Gross.
of course, manages to use certain temporal anomalies so that it's Christmas every day. which
Ah.
normally might be the topic of a Disney film, but in this case, probably not.
Yes, that's
There are
really
presumably
terrifying.
more examples, but Pietro decides that nobody's ever going to read this anyways, and stops. He later comes across a teenage girl sitting at a makeshift fire in an abandoned jewelry store. He recognizes the ruby amulet hanging around the girl's neck as SCP-963, meaning that this is the one and only Dr. Bright. Pietro turns off the perception filter on the suit, startling Bright with his sudden appearance. Bright assumes that Pietro was sent here to kill him, but Pietro assures him that he managed to get away from the Foundation.
Who's Dr. Bright again? I can't remember who that is.
Bright remarks that Pietro's face looks like a disaster and desperately needs sleep, despite Pietro's response that he's fine. Pietro sits across from Bright and tells him that he got lucky when this all started, managing to make it into the suit. Bright, of course, was a senior staff member, meaning that he received those files that the O5 Council sent out after making a discovery about the human psychospace.
Interesting.
The first set of files were a series of instructions, which caused suicides and resignations, if you remember. But Dr. Bright can't remember the instructions because of the second set of files sent out. These were later sent out to all personnel, and Bright reveals that they were just a bunch of images of eggs, trees, and other religious stuff.
What?
It didn't mean anything to Bright, and he suspects that whatever effect they would have had was nullified by his amulet. Pietro believes that to mean it was some sort of mimetic agent, meaning an anomaly that affects someone's mind. But
So they sent out a bunch of images that have just messed with people, and this is the outcome, right? That's really weird. This is so weird, and I feel like I need answers. There's too many mysteries going on. I need answers.
Bright disagrees, saying that he knows what a mimetic agent feels like, and this was different. It felt like he was supposed to be released from something, rather than something being forced on him. Basically, Bright doesn't know what's going on either. When Pietro tells him that he's going to 579, Bright says that there are easier ways to commit suicide, as not even he knows what 579 is, and he's a pretty big deal. Bright instead is heading towards SCP-1437, an endless hole that leads to an unknown number of parallel universes.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Go to another parallel universe where hopefully everything is all fine and dandy. There's got to be one universe out there where everything goes right. Everything.
Bright plans on throwing the amulet down the hole and seeing where he wakes up. The two wish each other luck and part ways. We'll dissect what this conversation means at the end. More files got deleted, and Pietro is now standing outside of the site containing SCP-579.
Okay.
He doesn't see any guards, and security seems to be completely down, as if the place has been abandoned for quite some time, despite it being supposedly an extremely high-priority facility. He's having difficulty breathing, and has a feeling of an impending end. As he walks closer, he feels like someone is pressing a gun against the back of his head, pushing him forward. He doesn't know what SCP-579 is, but he knows that it's looking at him.
Ugh, that's creepy.
The next entry is quite a bit worse for Pietro, as the facility was not empty, but instead filled with blinkers, the SCP-173 copies. They can't see him, but have figured out that he's here, and are now slashing everything in sight. Pietro's leg gets gouged, and although they're not chasing him, they're headed towards 579's containment cell as well.
That's gross.
Pietro makes it there first, sealing the door behind him as they...
Honestly, guys, this is such a good story. It would make an awesome movie. The Exploring series, this guy who's done this is phenomenal at telling stories. Like, up there with people like Mr. Ballin, who's really good. Really good at telling stories. And these pictures help. They really do help. They kind of... There's a certain aspect to telling stories verbally and reading books where most of it's left to the imagination. So showing random images with little bits of connections to what's going on really helps boost that imagination. It's brilliant.
start to slash through it. There are a number of instruments monitoring 579, but even without them, he knows that 579 is here because he can feel it. There's a hole in the floor that leads to 579, but it's not a direct drop, as Pietro hoped that he could just throw the briefcase down. Instead, it looks like he's going to have to jump down the hole and throw the briefcase on the way down, inevitably resulting in his death.
Oh, geesh.
Pietro comments that he's realized he's not the detective in a
Hence the fall damage. Hence the fall damage.
detective story, but instead the murder victim. He dies for someone else's story, and the human race is going with him. He knows who is responsible for this destruction, and how, but he still doesn't know why. He ponders why this is happening. Why did the Foundation send out those files? Why did Ganzir fall? Why did he take this briefcase across the world? Why is he here? And why is he going to die?
Yeah.
He begs anyone reading this to figure it out, and then he drops down the hole.
My guess is we haven't figured it out. My guess. He drops down the hole, he throws the briefcase into 579, it goes back in time, it wipes everything from happening, he gets fall damage but also appears at the same place, and here we are trying to figure out what's going on.
We see a black image labeled as SCP-579, and then a final journal entry reading, "Oh, so that's how it is," before Pietro's life signs are lost. This is when he appeared dead in the suit inside of the 579 containment cell. I've already explained what happened there, bringing 055 and 579 together to reset the timeline, but it's finally time to explain why. There are clues sprinkled throughout this entire article that we can piece together, but the black image at the end is a big one.
So he's gonna tell us what it is? Like they figured it out? I don't think they figured it out. I think this is just a theory, but it'd be really cool.
Hidden in the image is a secret dialogue between two members of the O5 Council. One is looking at a document with shaking hands, asking if this is confirmed. The other nods, saying that they got the report from Numa staff yesterday. It's everyone, even the council. The first overseer notes his incredulity at finding himself agreeing with that damn lizard. They'll have to disseminate a cure among personnel before they get things underway, because it'll try to stop them otherwise. The other overseer asks God to help them, but the first rebukes him, saying that that's it talking. We know the lizard referenced is 682, who is critical to this piece, but what they're referring to as it is a bit more nebulous.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Project Numa, which discovered something rather startling in the human psychospace.
It's getting so deep into the SCP lore. It's so strange, but it's getting me hyped again. I took a little bit of a break when we was doing Warhammer stuff, and it's just getting me right back into it again. This was like the perfect video to react to get me back into SCP.
This means that they found something intrinsically present in the unconscious minds of every human, and it was startling enough to cause the Foundation to want to wipe out humanity. What's more, this discovery led the O5 Council to agree with SCP-682, who despises all life. The Council spread a series of instructions to their senior staff members, which we don't get to know about, but
Okay.
it did lead many of them to kill themselves or resign. This likely means that they were informed of what was about to happen to the world, but weren't mentally altered just yet.
Imagine if whatever this was the thing that the plague doctor was trying to cure for people. I'm going deep here with the lore, guys. I know what I'm talking about. Like, the plague doctor needed to cure people. I wonder if this is what it was. That'd be kind of cool.
This happened with the second set of files, which were spread across most of the Foundation, immediately ceasing all suicides and resignations, because now everyone was fully committed to wiping out humanity.
Huh.
While some would believe this to be a memetic agent that forcibly altered the Foundation's thinking, Bright confirms that it was not. In other words, instead of planting new code into a person's brain, whatever was in the second set of files released something in their brains, allowing them to see what was in the psychospace that makes humanity disgusting.
The psycho space.
Essentially, what they were released from was humanity, becoming outsiders like 682.
Oh.
This process involved a completely different way of thinking on multiple levels, as for one, they no longer felt pain, as shown in the stabbing test,
Okay.
and two, they were no longer considered part of humanity, as shown by SCP-1440, which destroys anything nearby connected to humanity. Dr.
So
Bright
weird.
wasn't affected by the second set of files because of his amulet, making him immortal, which already disconnects him from humanity. It's interesting that the project that discovered all this was known as Pneuma, which is an ancient Greek word meaning breath, but is also used in religious context to mean spirit, or...
This is getting so deep. It's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper about, like, you know, your consciousness and how it's affecting the greater reality of things. And it's so weird, but it's so cool. I wonder who wrote who wrote this story. I wonder who did it. Because well done. Well done.
or soul. Pneumatology is the study of the Holy Spirit, an aspect of God that makes up the Holy Trinity. The it referred to before by the O5s could be the human soul, an essential part of what makes us human. The researchers that Pietro came across in Site-19 were missing a spark from their eyes, perhaps suggesting that they no longer possessed a soul. It's also interesting that the GOC's fortress was named Ganzir, after a palace in the Sumerian underworld where the goddess Ereshkigal ruled over the dead.
Interesting.
Those that still had souls, the refugees, were allowed to enter Ganzir, but those without them, the Foundation agents, relentlessly worked to break in. Ganzir finally fell because the soulless came inside. Perhaps the stretched figure that the Foundation was fighting was indeed the Holy Spirit, who helped guide Pietro towards the end goal so that humanity could be saved.
So this is getting very, like, spiritual and religious, but the writer, whoever came up with this, has taken aspects of religious mythology, you could call it, and implemented it into this story in such a cool way that makes it mysterious. So you don't actually know it, it doesn't actually mention it, but it's right on the nose. And I like that. I'm a big fan of it.
Perhaps I'm overthinking things, but
Maybe.
since the theme of the SCP-5000 contest was mystery, it's fitting that the winner would be so incredibly mysterious. Regardless of what it all means, SCP-5000 is a fascinating tale of one man wandering like a ghost through the end of the world, as the SCP Foundation tears it apart.
Yep.
In the end, maybe it doesn't really matter to find all the answers to the question why, as there will always be more questions. One of those questions might be, if this all happened once, why can't it happen again?
Ooh, he's gonna leave it on that note. Yeah, he is. That's it. What's this? Final hidden text. You said invade, right? Might be one of the last times that happens, right? Don't say that. It must be worse for you. That's what everyone says after they find out something they don't like. Jesus Christ. It's not something that can be hashed out in a few hours, man. Can you be quiet for a minute? Of course I can't. Not yet. No, not yet. The feeling of being invaded. Why not? Don't say that. Don't even talk about it. We should have left well enough alone. I keep thinking like it would be better to end it all. Not with what we found. How long are they going to take? But it's not like that. Everything I am, you know what they'll say. It is me. It's over. It'll take me. The germophobic, right? Did you get a reply? You shouldn't have looked. You too. I doubt anyone's going to be talking about anything else anymore. I feel sick. Weird. So weird. Is that everything? All right. So I will leave a link down below to the Exploring series in their video. Make sure you go over there, like the video, subscribe to his channel, because that was awesome. That was such a cool story. Very creepy and very weird, but a very good story. And it really took a turn in a direction that I didn't expect. I thought this was going to be more just, this is SCP-579. It's done something to everyone. The dude's going to go back in time, put the briefcase in there, and destroy it. That's what I thought it was going to be. But it seems like it went a bit deeper than that. It seemed like it went way deeper with, you know, all these religious aspects and kind of deeper levels of consciousness is affecting people, and the thing that killed people was already inside them in general. Really weird, really bizarre, but you know me, I love stories like that. So if you've got any more of these weird SCP explore or long form SCP videos you want me to react to in multiple parts, let me know in the comments down below, and I will certainly do that. Well done, the Exploring series, because you've made a masterpiece there. Like, genuinely phenomenal. Great way to end it as well. Just end it suddenly, just like, you know, this is what it is, and that's it. You know, really good. Members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for these members right here. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. I really appreciate it. Links down below to all my socials, including the 2 links to Discord. We've got the military link for all things military. Join there if you want to join the military, get fit for the military, join that Discord. Second link is for all things geeky, like SCP, D&D, Halo, Metro, Star Wars, Warhammer, all that stuff. Second Geek Discord. Also link down below to my podcast and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I haven't streamed all week. On Friday, my regular stream, I'm planning on painting some Warhammer, I think either that or playing some Division 2. I've not decided yet, but get hyped. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'll let you know tomorrow during the video. Also, a link down below to my second channel, Original Human Geek, where we have some incredible stuff like D&D, where I'm going to be doing the campaign next, and I'm really excited for you guys to see it. It's called Waystone. I wrote it myself, and some other fun stuff as well. So definitely go check that out. Until next time, guys, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.